The next concept is Thich Nhat Hanh and engaged Buddhism or socially engaged Buddhism. Nhat Hanh coined the term engaged Buddhism in his book Vietnam, Lotus in a Sea of Fire. During the Vietnam War, he and his community of monks and nuns had to decide what to do when the villages around them were bombed. Should they stay in their monastery and meditate, or should they go out into the streets to help the people who had been injured? They decided to help people while remaining mindful of their surroundings. Engaged Buddhism in its purest form is based on self-protection and self-healing. In other words, it has a self-reflection component at its core that attempts to transform selfish minds into selfless minds. Thich Nhat Hanh's writings reflects his dedication to helping others. This living thought, in turn, generates a variety of individual and social actions and is considered the foundation of his engaged Buddhism. According to Sally Baking, as a result, Han's emphasis on the importance of meditative practice for social activists is probably the most fundamental of his teachings. Meditative practice, according to Thich Nhat Hanh, is the Buddhist foundation of engaged Buddhism. Engaging in ourselves, in other words, is the purest form of engaged Buddhism. We can see the concept in this ideal with living thought as its premise. That is, engaged Buddhism as the central concept responds to our life's suffering by generating action or movement based on the Buddhist principle of self-reflection. Let us now understand how we can translate from awareness to action. Engaged Buddhists use a wide range of traditional Buddhist doctrines, narratives, and values to justify their worldly involvement on behalf of suffering beings in a Buddhist context. The Four Noble Truths, the most fundamental Buddhist doctrine, concern identifying and acknowledging suffering, determining its cause, seeing how it can be overcome, and working to overcome it. As a result, if political and economic structures cause suffering, engaged Buddhists argue that they should be dismantled in accordance with the Four Noble Truths. Buddhist ethical teachings such as cultivating generosity, moral discipline, patience, compassion, loving kindness, refraining from harming others, the monastic code, that is the Vinaya, with its rules of behavior for monks and nuns, right livelihood, skillful means of alleviating suffering, and the Bodhisattva ideal of saving sentient beings from samsara all appear to include our responsiveness to other people's suffering. Beyond ethics, engaged Buddhists use important Buddhist concepts like interdependence and non-duality to demonstrate that we are all responsible for one another and that the suffering of others is significant to the self because self and other are not fundamentally different. Selflessness and emptiness are used to motivate practitioners to transform fears, desires, and habits that cause others to suffer or prevent them from acting to alleviate suffering. Engaged Buddhists believe that all sentient beings are intrinsically valuable and deserve to be treated with respect and dignity, and that all sentient beings have the seed of Buddha nature or the ability to awaken as enlightened beings. Nhat Hanh founded the order of interbeing in the Rinzai lineage of Zen Buddhism in the 1960s, drawing on his Theravada mindfulness training as well as his Mahayana Zen practice. According to its charter, the aim of the order is to actualize Buddhism by studying, experimenting with, and applying Buddhism in modern life with a special emphasis on the Bodhisattva ideal. During the 1960s, to actualize Buddhism meant not only practicing mindfulness but also protecting villagers under attack, providing medical aid, assisting farmers, rebuilding villages destroyed by fighting, and advocating an end to the violence without endorsing any political or military faction. Nhat Hanh's interbeing talks about 14 guidelines for engaged Buddhism, and it formulates his approach to interbeing and engaged Buddhism. Let us have a look as to what it means by interbeing. What does Nhat Hanh talks about it? To elaborate it further, the most important precept of all in Buddhism is to live in awareness, to know what is going on, to be aware of what we do, what we are every minute. When we are completely mindful, in direct contact with reality, not just images of reality, we realize that all phenomena are interdependent, endlessly interwoven. This is the basis for Nhat Hanh's approach to non-violence and life in general. He refers to it as the interbeing principle. In Buddhism, there is no such thing as an individual object, event or experience, because no other part of the world can exist apart from all others. Rather, everything that looks like a separate entity is actually dependent on and therefore interwoven with something else. Whatever appears to be an isolated thing is actually a combination of its constituent elements. These elements are the influences from the other things with which it is interwoven, and those elements too are made up of other combinations. The world is an endless web of combinations. The question for Buddhism is how to transform this philosophical theory into a lived reality. The answer is to transcend the learned distinction between self and the other, subject and object. The way to pursue this goal is to focus on our interbeing with the specific realities around us. To understand something is to take that thing up and be one with it. When we pay careful enough attention to that oneness, we discover that there is no distinction between the contemplator and the contemplated. Meditation is one method for accomplishing this. Meditation is seeing into our own nature and waking up. Nhat Hanh teaches meditation through focused breathing, mindful walking, and paying close attention to trees and other natural objects. Practicing mindfulness and delving deeply into the nature of things leads to the discovery of the true nature of interbeing. Therefore, we find peace and gain the strength to connect with everything. We become fully present in the moment, unaffected by past or future concerns. This type of meditation has always been an important part of the Buddhist path to enlightenment. Let us look into Nhat Hanh's interbeing 14 Guidelines for Engaged Buddhism, which addresses individual mindfulness practice and cultivation of virtue, but also responsibilities in family life, work, and community.